Good Work Podcast, hosted by Terrell Strayhorn and Jaquin Johnson. We specialize in taking a deep dive into issues that truly matter. Each episode unpacks the challenges and opportunities facing today's leaders, from classrooms to boardrooms, offering insights that inspire real change. By redefining success, we're changing lives, empowering people everywhere to create environments where everyone feels a sense of belonging, whether at home, work, or school. So hey, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we explore the issues shaping our futures, one meaningful conversation at a time. Let's go!
Welcome to Do Good Work Podcast. And I am so delighted to have you with us for what promises to be a great episode. And I'm your co-host, Terrell Strayhorn. And this week, I'm not joined in the studio by my co-host because he's actually heading back to home. We had a great, fantastic, awesome weekend event in the Evelyn Reed Syphax School of Education, and he came into town for that, and we were able to do quite a few things. So we're really, really excited about the episode tonight, and certainly wishing him safe travels all the way back to home. So do me a favor, if you know folks who tune into the podcast, drop the link, drop the tag, put it in the family group chat, put it wherever you need it to go. Let folks know that we are tuned in, plugged in, set and ready to go for tonight's episode. And it's going to be a good one. So I'm putting it on, I don't really know if that many people are left on X. I feel kind of sad about that, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X. Let me see. And if you can, put it on your favorite platforms as well. Let folks know that show is about to start and we are ready to go. I am looking forward to it. Put it on X, put it on Facebook, put it on where else? LinkedIn, all those channels. Let folks know, tune in. It's time to tune in. We're about to go live. All right. So, and let me check. It's on LinkedIn, I think, already. I see myself on Facebook, and hopefully I see myself on LinkedIn. All right. LinkedIn, it's time to go. There we go. All right. So everything's, oh, no. Got to put it on TikTok because if not, it doesn't go there automatically. And I know my TikTok folk are tuning in. All right. So, there we go. Y'all hear that? The live show. So I don't know what that was about. All right. So I'm posting it on there, and I am ready. So it's been a good week. Hopefully you too have had a great week. And we're going to get started as we normally would with our word. Do good word. Our word of the week. Word of the week. Do good work. Word of the week. All right, so for me, I'm going to say my word of the week is I am summit. There it is. Last letter of your first name. No, first letter of your last name. And so my word is summit. The reason why is because I have we had an education leader summit in the School of Education at Virginia Union, and it was a success. And so I'm thinking a lot about the success of that event. We had enough people turn out. We had our speakers come, even despite some delays and other issues. I mean, everyone that I've talked to so far has said they had a good experience. They want to come back. They want more. So I'm going to say summit because it's front of mind for me. And shout out to everyone who helped make that event a success, from the planning committee to the faculty to the students to the staff, my own family and friends who participated. Just a great day. Totally appreciate it. So summit is my word for the day. All right, we got some words in the chat, and let's see. One, we got splendid. All right, you drop them in there. Tell me your word. First letter of your last name is how we typically do it, although you could pick a different way of doing it, but like basically your word of the week, your do good word of the week. All right, so we got splendid. That's good. When you get to the end of the week, about to face a brand new week, and you can say honestly that you feel splendid, that is a blessing, and we love it. All right, so we got black. All right, so that could be a color. That could be, black excellence. It could be black as in cloud or dark. I don't know, but black as a word, we'll take it. We got another one. Here we go. Grounded. That is a good word. To feel grounded. That is sort of centered, in yourself, in the world around you, and not ungrounded or razzled or insecure. So grounded is like that reference to, I was working on a paper earlier today, and I mentioned in there the idea of being centered, being anchored. That's the word I wanted. Anchored, sort of grounded. And it's a great essence of how we can feel. All right. So if take the first letter of your last name, pick the word that describes how you feel about the week, and you can drop it in the chat. I'll put it on the screen. We're going to keep it going, but first letter of your last name. Mine is Strayhorn. First letter is S. I picked Summit because I wanted to talk to y'all about our Education Leaders Summit, which was a great convening. We had Principal Kafele, who came into town, dropped a lot of wisdom, a lot of nuggets. We had concurrent sessions by a number of different educational leaders and consultants, and those were dynamic. We had a panel of superintendents that demonstrated our connectedness to them, talking a lot about education. So it was really, really, really great. All right, so I'll give you a few more minutes for that, and then we'll get into tonight's episode. If you have not already, please like and share. Let me put that up. Like and share across your different platforms so that we can, there we go, like and follow. Well, it's way down there, but still. Let's do this one. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube, Do Good Work, or go to YouTube, Terrell Strayhorn, like and subscribe to that channel. It'll tell you whenever we go live or when we have other new episodes, and we would greatly appreciate it. All that you have to share there. All right. And I'm looking, I see some others. All right. Make sure I'm following this. Okay. So here we are. Guess what? Government's reopened. That's a good thing that the government has reopened. And, it took a long time. We broke history, made history by being closed for the longest period of time in American history. But here we are, we're reopening and reopened. So that means that people are back at work. I know this got to be great. Shout out to all of the government workers, state, federal, local, who are excited about being back at work. I know that I've heard from people that like the airports are back up and they're opening and people are moving through. all of the various lanes and TSA and all that kind of stuff at a more steady pace. So thank you to all who reconciled and found ways to reach an agreement so we could open the government back up. It's so important that people get back out, that they're working, that they're making their pay. And to all of the workers, government workers who are excited about being back at work, certainly want to shout you out and say, congrats. The American people are with you, and let's make this great. All right. So here we got another one. W is last name, but G denotes the feeling of last week. No, I definitely get it. Grounded is a good term. And so, and by the way, I've often said that maybe you should, because I'm running out of S words. Sometimes I want to pick a T word. That's my first name, Terrell. So if you feel like you want to pick a different word, someone wrote to me some time ago, probably about a month ago, and said, hey, well, this is the Do Good Work podcast. And I like the fact you all are doing your good word of the week. Good word of the week. So that to me was a play on kind of terms. And I hadn't really named it that, but we started calling it your good word of the week. And good word of the week can be your first name. It can be your last name. Sometimes people just pick a word. And so you're absolutely okay to do that, and feel free. All right. So we talked about the government, and now we're talking about in our jobs corner, lots of people who are out of work, lots of people who are getting back to work, lots of people who want to get back to work. And so yesterday when I was speaking to someone, they were talking about trying to figure out, particularly like when you are applying for work, you're seeking a job, how might you go about, getting experience in a field or an area when you don't have it already, right? So let's say, for instance, you're really trying to break into education, but you don't really have an education degree and you haven't really taught before, but you want to get into education. You think you'll be good in education. Or you want to get into consulting and you haven't really done much consulting work, but you really want to do that. You have your eyes set on it. How do you really get into work and industries and areas that you're really interested in? You got a knack for, talent for, maybe even a gifting for, but don't really have solid experience. Well, there are a couple of ideas that I think you can try. One is, never underestimate the power of an internship, an externship, a practicum, shadowing day, even if you were to go about, let's say, getting some sort of virtual experience, right? So those are 5 different kind of ways you can do it. So if you are really interested in getting to teaching, and I know people who say, like, I want to adjunct teach. I've taught in the K-12 area, but I want to go into the higher ed area and do more. How do I do it? Well, a couple ways you can do it. One is try to figure out what's really required of the job. So like teaching at the post-secondary level, teaching in college is you got to be able to teach. A lot of times they're looking for people who have experience working with their learning management system, LMS. They're also looking for people who have worked with certain types of students. So first generation, second generation, adult learners, students living with disabilities. So if you've taught at the K-12 level or even in the pre-K-12 level, like preschool, the question becomes, what are the learning management systems you're familiar with and you've worked with, like Blackboard and Canvas and Moodle and PowerSchool and all of those, right? So one is figure out what's required for the job you really aspire to enter into, and then figure out how can you encapsulate that or capture it, highlight it in your cover letter. So I've taught in the K-12 level. In that area, I've worked with a diverse range of students. Maybe nowadays you want to say a wide range of students to avoid the term diversity. Depends on where you're applying for the job, but a wide range of students from, pre-K all the way up to adult learners. Students with varying levels of ability, including those with learning disabilities, cognitive impairments, and the like. you can put language to all of this. And what that will do is, for a person who's looking at your cover letter, even if you're coming from K-12, it's like check, 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 check. They know that you have the experience they're looking for. People, I think, nowadays are looking for transferable skills, transferable experiences, not so much just lock and key. Here's what I know is, a lot of times when people are trying to move industries, they don't know the industry language. Industry specific language is critical, right? So if you're trying to move from K-12 to higher ed, if you're trying to move from education to business, you might, I'm going to stick with the education, I'll go to business in a moment, but if you're going from K-12 over to higher ed, you want to talk less about grades, more about year in school, levels, classifications. K-12 to higher ed, you want to talk less about, just subjects, and talk more about majors, minors, disciplines, fields, right? You want to talk less about what happens in a single classroom and talk more about what happens in classrooms, in laboratories, in the department, at the college, across disciplines. Interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary become really powerful keywords. And then, like I said, you really want to talk more about learning management systems and evaluation models and systems. I love that. You could even ask ChatGPT for transferable language. And maybe tonight I can even show you a quick example of that, because someone was asking me yesterday, like, how do you do, ChatGPT? And I use AI, but when I use AI, I don't use AI as like, hey, give me, complete this sentence. Every now and again, I may have to, but it's more so, talking to AI. I even get to the point now, okay, don't judge, safe place, right? I say, good morning, ChatGPT. Good morning, Copilot. I greet it and talk to it and move it through a lot of different languages. But ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude AI, Lex AI, all of them could be really good for giving you transferable language to get into those areas. And so if you're looking to move in a different industry from, say, education into business, transferable language, industry specific kind of language is the license. It gives you access. They're looking for those words. And I think when they don't see them, that's when they start saying, okay, this is a person outside the field. This is a person who may not be able to find success in the field. I don't think it's a matter of, oh, I never had the experience. Oh, I never worked in the industry or the field. Some time ago, I landed an interview for an executive director of a museum, and I've never led a museum. I'm really, really interested in that kind of work long term, but I made it all the way to the final stages. And I did ask for, this was just before ChatGPT was so popular, but I did ask, I read the job description, the position announcement. I asked people in museum and, living laboratory kinds of spaces, what kind of things matter when you're going to be an executive director? What are they looking for? What are hiring committees looking for? And I use those listening tours to then, fine tune my cover letter with that kind of language. So exactly. You get into the spaces and places where those people are. You go to their webinars, you go to their conferences, you have lunch with them, listen to their words, you ask them questions about like what kinds of things really matter, and then use that as you apply in your cover letter, in your resume, during the interview. Have a little, sheet of paper that has some words on it so you can remember those words. You can use them. What you find yourself doing is using the words of the industry. What the industry hears is here's a person who understands us. Here's a person who's a part of us. And even if their resume doesn't look like they spend a lot of time in the field, this is a person who's a quick study, quick learner, can pick up those words very quickly. So you can move industries. I'm a firm believer. I've seen it. I know people who have done it, but you can't do it without learning and without using that industry specific language to demonstrate to people, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I know what you're trying to do. If you're going to move from education, into business and industry, what I would say is this. One, in education, we talk a lot about goals, objectives, especially learning goals and learning objectives. But in business, these become key performance indicators, KPIs. They might become metrics and bottom lines. So you want to use that kind of language. Again, AI tools can be enormously helpful here, but so too can meaningful conversations with people who you know that are in those fields. Just ask them, what's the sort of industry specific language? You could give them a copy of your cover letter, ask them for feedback, make sure it sounds like what people in their field or industry are looking for. And, also, maybe again, I can show you again tonight in a little demonstration, but you can take a cover letter and then ask one of the AI tools, hey, review this cover letter, check it for industry specific language, make it appealing and eye-catching for chief executives in business industry or entrepreneur kind of fields or education or law, whatever the industry is you're trying to enter. Those kind of things can make a big difference when really trying to enter into a field. All right. So if you have questions or comments about that, feel free. I saw one, so I'm going to go ahead and drop a few comments in the chat for you. It just allows me to put it on the screen. We already talked about ChatGPT. That's a good one. But this one is the one I want. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Someone asked, what is Lex? So I'm going to put it in the chat for you. So, of course, ChatGPT, most people are familiar with it. But this one is Lex. Check it out. It's mostly for, writing. So I found it useful. Like if you're writing a paper, writing a email, writing a report, and you have some ideas of your language and you want it to sort of continue what you already have, I think you might find Lex really important. Perplexity is another one. That's a great one that should put that one in the chat. That will really help you in a lot of different areas. It takes there's a learning curve for it, but it's definitely worth trying if you have not before. Perplexity AI, put that one up here. And then listen, if you have a favorite AI tool, drop it in the chat. I'm gonna put it on the screen for folks so that we can help people, right? Everyone's trying to get some help. So if you have one, I've got ChatGPT, I've got Lex, I've got Perplexity. I mentioned Claude. Claude is another one. I'll put it on the screen, trying to figure out how it compares to some others. The others are more clear in my mind. I think it's like a chat. I have found myself using it. One of the nice things about Claude is it does the single sign-on. And so if you are a person who uses your Google email address or things like that in order to sign in, then it's an easy way to sign into that, where sometimes you have to create a new account for other people's. But all right, take a few seconds and take those down. And then we're going to switch over to tonight's main topic. But definitely want to give you those: ChatGPT, Lex, Perplexity, Claude, and there are many others. All right. Let's see here. Uh-oh. So I see. He landed. All right, I'll put it on the screen. Okay. I'm going to see how things. Whoops. All right. So let's talk about, we mentioned earlier about the government. We mentioned about jobs and opportunities. So now let's think about a couple things. I've been really thinking a lot, particularly because I feel like it's come up a lot with things that are happening in the world and things that are happening in the world around us, that there are all sorts of needs in the world. And one of the needs is a very fundamental need that we talk a lot about is belonging. And belonging is a basic human need. And we talk a lot about that in our writing. So belonging is important. Everybody wants to belong. People yearn to feel a sense of belonging. And one of the things that I think is really important in the work that I do is admitting or acknowledging the fact that although everyone wants to feel a sense of belonging, we sometimes miss how many people don't feel it, yearn for it, but can't, especially not in this day and age of loneliness. Loneliness is a crisis in today's society. And we often talk about, the economy, we talk about elections, we talk about government shutdowns, but we rarely talk enough about this epidemic that's happening in society of disconnection, people feeling unconnected, disconnected, unseen, unheard, unloved. And that's what sits at the core of belonging. And so I thought we might take a moment to just talk about this tonight, especially because I think as we move into this holiday season, right? So we're in November, and this is a time where a lot of people start to really struggle and may suffer. So I want to make sure that people can talk about it. We have a language for talking about it. So I'm going to share my screen in just a moment, talk through a couple of points. And then we will go from here. All right. So one of the things that I often talk about is sense of belonging is a basic need. This is fundamental as air, water, and food. People want to feel a sense of belonging. They want to know that their lives matter, that people hear them and see them, that they're important, that their contributions also are important. And so, one of the ways that this happens is through relationships. And so I'm going to share this real quick if I can. Let me pull this up. Ooh. All right. So let me see here. What's happening? Oh no, it's not what I want. Share screen. I don't know what this means, but let's see. Here we go. All right. Hopefully this works well. All right. So a lot of times in the work that I do, I talk about belonging, and I use my book on belonging from 2019 as a sort of launching pad from this. In this book, I describe belonging as a basic need. Everybody wants to belong. If I could see you and could hear you, I would ask everyone, like, by a show of hands, how many of you in here want to have a friend? And I just talked about this at the summit, and this is great that I get a chance to mention it, because it's so interesting how, in some instances, counterintuitive this is. Everyone wants to feel like they matter. And I'm trying to tell anyone who's in the podcast audience, those who will watch the recording later or this episode later, is listen, it is absolutely human, common, normal, appropriate for you to want to know that you are important, that you're significant, that you made a difference. that you did something good. And I say this because I found so many people who downplay those sensations, those vibrations, those feelings. I mean, I'm not saying you should, yes, probably, especially in communities of color and collectivist societies, we often teach our young people to be humble, have humility, which means like do it with and not for the praise. Do it and don't look for someone to pat you on the back. Do it, what is that phrase? Even when nobody's watching. And I think that's important. I do think there's a room for humility, but I'm worried because I think in this epidemic of disconnection, in this epidemic of loneliness, in this epidemic of feeling invisible, sometimes we as humans rob ourselves or deny ourselves the very thing we need in order to know that we're not invisible. The reason why I know I'm not invisible is because somebody knows my name. The reason why I know I'm not invisible is because someone's going to call me and I'm going to pick up. The reason why I know I matter is because someone needs me tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to not go to work or not show up for the meeting because there are meetings tomorrow that I run, I oversee. And without me being present, someone's going to come looking for me and text me and say, "Where are you? We miss you in the meeting." But if you're a person who often says when they say, "Hey, would you like to run this meeting?" "No, I don't need to run the meeting." "Hey, would you like to oversee this event?" No, I don't need to coordinate or oversee this event. You're denying yourself the experience you need in order to know, hey, my life has value and it has worth and I matter and I belong. How do I know it? Because of all the things we just talked about. So I think we have to balance humility with visibility. We have to balance playing small with knowing that we make a contribution, that we have to balance diminishing and turning down our light to the point where we don't evaporate, right? Or we don't extinguish our light. I remember growing up, my mom, dad, my grandmother, and grandparents during when thunderstorms would happen and the power would snap off, we would light a candle, or what they call light a lantern. I remember, like you could, nowadays you'd have battery powered kind of things, but you would light a match, put it in the lantern, and the lantern would, illuminate the area. Not like power lights would do, but enough for you to be able to see, hold it and light your path. You could find your way. You could get up the steps without falling, those kind of things. If the wind was blowing, if it was too cold, or if you blew, you could extinguish the lantern. And I think sometimes we're like that as humans, that we extinguish our light. We allow ourselves to get so small, so hidden, so invisible that we're in darkened, cold places and our light goes out, or we're around shady people and our light goes out, or we're, trying our best to shine bright in clouded, crowdy places, and the cloud and the crowd suffocate our light. Whatever it is okay to want to know that you matter and that your contributions are important and that other people need you and see you and believe in you and value you. And that's not arrogance. That's not selfish. That is human to know that, right? So I write in the book that belonging is this feeling that people matter to one another and to the group. And then I go on to say that it's a shared faith that your needs will be met by your commitment to being together. I think about this one a lot sometimes, especially in public lectures, because shared faith, as a man of faith, I think a lot about it. It's this shared belief that your needs and my needs are going to be met by our decision to be together, our committed decision to contribute, to be in community, to take care of one another, right? So no one person has to kind compromise it all. No one person has to sacrifice it all. Like, okay, well, I need to know that I matter. I need to be praised. I need a pat on the back. I need to be affirmed. And when we come together in groups, in clubs, in churches, in relationships, even love relationships, no one person gets everything that they want in a balanced world. I think that leads to dysfunction when one person, one partner gets all that they want and the other person has to sacrifice everything. There should be a mutual kind of sacrifice and compromise where, one person gets something, another person gets a couple of things, and you kind of give and take. That's what compromise is. Well, in a belonging sense, it refers to the shared faith that members' needs will be met by their commitment to being together. That when members come together, that they're going to have some of their needs. We'll come to that in just a second. What are our needs? But some of their needs, physiological, emotional, psychological, spiritual, behavioral, biological, will be met by their decision to share and be in community with others. By the same token, so too will these other members have their needs met. Their needs of affirmation, their needs of affiliation, their needs of friendship will be met by their commitment to being together. So when I join a job or I take a job and I join a team at work, belonging is the shared belief that my needs to be affirmed, to play an important role, to spend time with people who I like between the hours of 9 and 5 will be met by my decision to be a part of this organization, a part of this business, a part of this team. But so too do my team members have needs, and their needs of not being judged, their needs of being accepted, their needs of being celebrated, their needs of being heard, right? Without hiccup or interruption will be met by our collective decision of being a part of this team. What you will find is that when people's needs are not met, that is, I need to be heard without interruption. But every time I try to talk at this place of employment, I'm being interrupted, cut off. People are finishing my sentences for me. When my needs are not met, people withdraw. People push back and ultimately depart, right? When a person comes and says, well, my needs are, I need to be celebrated, I need to be affirmed, I need to be rewarded, I need to be paid, and paid equitably and fairly and consistently. And when those needs are not met, people's needs, unmet needs, lead to resignation. Resignation is not always formal, resigning from a job. First, there's silent resignation, right? Where people say, well, I'm at the job, but I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do my job. I'm here. I'll just take the paycheck. Sometimes what silent resignation looks like is diminished engagement in the work, where people will say, like, I used to go above and beyond the call of duty, but now I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to do what's required. I'm going to come at 9, maybe even 9:01. I'm going to leave at 4:59. Don't ask me to do anything else. That's silent resignation, where a person who used to throw in all of their energy and their effort sort of just withdraws, starts to hold back, starts to restrict their involvement in engagement and place limits on it. And restrictive, limit, bounded kind of engagement doesn't produce innovation and excellence in the way that it would if a person was liberated, free to throw themselves into their work and really get into that zone, right? So that's what feeling shared faith really means. Now, I often talk about it also in the sense that sense of belonging is psychologically, it refers to the sense of personal involvement or integration into an environment. Like I just said, deep engagement or involvement in something to the extent that a person feels they play a special role there, right? So it's when a person really knows that they're important, they're needed, They are essential to the group and to the environment. And that whatever they do, whether it is answer phones, return calls, fill out the paperwork, run the meeting, create the agenda, but balance the budget, spend the money, that no matter what, it's an important role in that system or the environment, which really underscores the role of leadership, or the leadership lesson there. And that is, leaders are important in every org, partly because what we do is we communicate orally and in written form, one, the mission, the vision, the core values of the organization, but we also can put words to the important role that everyone plays. So for instance, as a leader, I have at times, I know that people can see, and I work a lot in education and higher education. And in my fields, a lot of times people can clearly see the important role that the teacher or the instructor plays, the board, the trustee, or the president or the provost plays, the vice president plays, right? But what I find myself doing more often than not is trying to help people also understand how everyone plays a role. So like yesterday's summit was a success. And as dean, I played a role in that. So too did my faculty member who coordinated all of the major sort of big pieces. She brought us together. She did not execute every part. That wasn't her job. Her job was to bring us together, keep us meeting periodically, but each person played a role. So someone played a role with respect to communication. Someone else played a role when it came to the speakers and the budget. Someone else played a role with the logistics and the tables and the ordering of materials, right? The registration. The students played a role by working the registration table. But as a leader, my role, I believe, is not to do everything. You can't do it all. It takes a village. It takes a team. And there's no I in team. But quite often, you have to communicate orally and in written form, both in the moment, before the moment, and after the moment, that all of these parts are important, right? So yesterday, security becomes important because they're the ones who help the people get to the building. Those who mow the lawn and keep the campus looking good, they play an important role because people will be on campus for a summit, which is in part a fundraiser, but also an event to bring together educational leaders. And when they go into the building, they're coming from outside. They want to see the lawn, the campus looking nice. They go in, when they go to the restrooms have to be sanitary and well acquainted and clean, well appointed. Otherwise, they can't use them, right? They go inside and the concurrent speakers need to project their PowerPoint. So IT becomes an important. So the leader is the one who helps us to understand that parking services, ground services and groundskeepers, security, IT, faculty, alumni chapters and student, keynote speakers, workshop facilitators, all play a role, an important role in the overall success of the summit. So I'm curious, for those of you who are listening, how many times, think about a work situation, what was something that stood out to you that a leader, supervisor, manager did in order to signal or communicate the importance of your work? Can you recall a time where a supervisor or a manager or team leader did something that struck you, register with you as like, wow, that made me feel special. That made me feel like I play an important role. Drop it in the chat when we get through this next slide. I'll pull it down. I'll go back to the chat and put it on the screen and we'll talk through it. But can you recall a time where a manager or supervisor or team leader made you feel special? What did they do recall and drop in the chat. So then the other piece of this is in the book, I also talk about seven core elements of belonging. I say things like sense of belonging is a basic human need. Everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants to matter. You're not bad just if you feel like you want to know that you did well, that your sacrifices and your contributions are seen and heard and valued. That's not a bad thing to want to experience. It also takes on heightened importance, though, in certain contexts and times. That is, sometimes it's more important to people to know that they matter when they are prone to feeling like they don't matter, when they just left a job where they were made to feel small or invisible, or they once worked with a supervisor who made them feel inadequate, insignificant, less important. And now, because they're working with someone who is new, the need to be important, to know I'm doing a good job, to be celebrated for the job I've done takes on heightened importance, right? In that certain time, in that certain context. That's important to pick up. It is a fundamental motive. That means it causes you to do stuff. People do stuff to belong. I don't know if I'm showing it, but this is a crew neck sweater, and it is actually for Virginia Union University. It's one of our newest VUU kinds of sweatshirts. And I wear it particularly on game days, homecoming, Fridays, spirit days. So I wear it on days when I know I am going to be around people who are also celebrating their affiliation with Virginia Union or any institution, right? Just think about Spirit Day, a homecoming, a football game, a baseball game, a basketball game, whatever. People are driven to do stuff like wear certain paraphernalia. Why? Because when I put this on and I go out, there are people who I know will identify with this. There may be people who have this exact sweater on, but even if they don't have it on, they're going to realize, oh, you studied at fill in the blank school. So belonging is so important. It's a fundamental motive sufficient to drive. It causes us to do stuff like to put on, to raise our hand, to ask a question. It causes us, I just was speaking to one of my new fraternity brothers tonight who just crossed Alpha. It causes you to seek membership into fraternities and sororities, even at adult ages. Why? Because everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants to fit in. Everybody wants to be a part of something. The other thing is social identities intersect and shape belonging. Who you are shapes your belonging journey. So who you are, what you do, shapes how you pursue belonging, how you achieve belonging, but also what it takes for you to belong. So, for example, as an African-American man who is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, all of those social identities intersect and shape my belonging, which is why when I'm around other alphas, I feel at home, where some people might not. And I feel a particular responsibility for connecting with, supporting, caring for other fraternity brothers, alphas, right? Social identities intersect and shape your belonging. Now, as an African-American man, however, my belonging experience is shaped by my race as well. So, for example, I feel, people who know me know this. I love corner stores. I don't really know why. I love going to them. I love anytime I go, it'll take me 30 minutes to get out of there because I just like to look in corner stores, especially like kind of small, cramped corner stores that have, juice and candy and cookies, and you can pick up, chapstick and a pair of sunglasses and an ink pen. These are things that you wouldn't find all together in a single store, but I really enjoy corner stores. They are in some ways kind of cultural artifacts because they have somewhat unusual hours. They kind of, can give you access to a lot of different kinds of things. And they're local. And I do like building community. So like, I like the fact that when I live places, I can go into a corner store, and after going there 3, 4, 5 times, the owner of the store knows me. There's a part of me that probably thinks too that I like corner stores because corner stores, generally speaking, are locally owned. And so I'm all about local businesses, Black owned, minority owned businesses, people, owning their own. And so if I can support a local business or a small business or an entrepreneur over one of those global conglomerates, I will. And so these are important things to know. Social identities intersect, shape belonging. Probably my comfort in a corner store is even shaped by my identities. I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. My mom and dad bought a home that it used to be across the street from a 7-Eleven. So growing up, I remember being able to get access to the store by walking across the street. So being local to a store, within walking distance of a store, and walking there to get candy and those kind of odd items probably is just sort of in my DNA from growing up, but it's in me. All of this, it may not be your story, but all of us have a story, and it's shaped by who we are, our experiences, and our journey. And then lastly, belonging produces positive outcomes. That is, that when you feel a sense of belonging, good things happen. People who feel a sense of belonging, according to sociological research, live longer, happier, more fulfilled lives. People who feel a sense of belonging, they know they matter. They know that they feel affirmed, they feel supported, they have community, they have relationships, friendships. And it doesn't have to be that they're celebrated every single day, but they have been celebrated for their contributions. It doesn't mean that every celebration, that it's only celebration. They've never been challenged. People who have been challenged still feel a sense of belonging, but people who feel a sense of belonging, on average, live longer, more fulfilled, healthier, happier lives. They experience well-being, so their mental health and their physical health are pretty balanced. And I think those kinds of positive outcomes are the things that make belonging worth talking about. All right, so let me stop here, unshare my screen, and then see if we've got all right, so yes, got it. I did it. This is a good question. How do you go about measuring belonging? You can think about measuring belonging a lot of different ways, at least in my experience. I think in my work, I have some scales for measuring belonging, and would be happy to share those. Some of them actually you can find through our website. You have to go to the part that really talks about some of our research and publications. But, here's some traditional items or typical items for measuring belonging. People who want to measure belonging often ask folks to rate on a scale of 1 to 5. Now, my tip is go 1 to 7 if you really want to force some variance. That is, when you go like 1 to 3, people don't differ that much on these items. 1 to 5 gives you a little variability, but if you really want to create variability, I typically in my work go 1 to 7. 1 being not at all, 7 being very much, or 1 being sense of alienation, cold, unwelcoming, 7 being sense of belonging, warm, and welcoming. And you ask them to rate on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 7, the extent to which they agree with the following statements. One of them clearly should be, I feel a sense of belonging in this classroom, at this place of work, at work, in this house, in this church, whatever it might be, right? Fill in the blank, anchor it, because what we do know is belonging is domain specific. People feel a sense of belonging in certain domains. So I feel a sense of belonging at home, but maybe not at work. I feel it at work, but maybe not at church. I feel it at church, but maybe not in the library. So domain specific. I feel a sense of belonging in fill in the blank. 2, another measure of sense of belonging is something like people would miss me if I left this place suddenly without notice. People would miss me if I left work suddenly without notice. People would miss me if I left church suddenly without notice. People would miss me if I vanished and left work suddenly without notice, right? That's getting to that aspect of, wow, your presence is acknowledged. Your presence is important. Your presence is seen. Doesn't have to be by all people, but some people would miss me if I disappeared and never came back. That's what that second question is getting at. The third one is a very typical belonging question or item, has to do with like, so if I would choose this job again, if I had to do it over, I would choose this school again if I had to do it over. I would choose this college over again, or I would choose this college again if I had to do it over, right? So it's trying to get to consistency in one's decision. It's trying to get to the feeling of regret, like that I made this decision to join this job, to join this club, to join this group. And if I could do it over again, I wouldn't do it again, right? But people who feel a sense of belonging would repeat that decision. They would join the group again, remain member of the group. So membership consistency is probably that domain there. There are other items you could imagine. So one major piece of belonging that I talk about a lot these days is relational consistency. People feel a sense of belonging when they have friends, when they enjoy positive, strong relationships with others, when they know their teacher, know their coworker, know their manager, know their supervisor, know their peer, right? But it's not about just seeing and knowing them once at some moment in time. It really is about relational consistency. It's that I get to know you and interact with you over time. It's that I get to have conversation with my supervisor, my team leader, my manager, not once on a Wednesday 5 months ago, but I'm regularly engaging with them, talking with them, conversing with them, sharing my dreams and aspirations while also hearing constructive feedback, right? So relational consistency is a major component of belonging. That when people want to feel a sense of belonging, it's not about just connecting them up with people. This is what most mentoring programs fail to understand. They'll say like, okay, well, we're trying to foster belonging, so we're going to take a protege, connect them with their mentor. And how many of you have been a part of a mentoring program where, you connect somebody up and you never ever interact at all? And then months down the road, you wonder, why didn't it work? This is not just in mentoring programs. So shout out to my colleague and good brother, Dr. John Guns, who is the dean of the Samuel Dewitt Proctor School of Theology at Virginia Union University. He often talks to me about the importance of my belonging research applied to church context, right? So what's a prayer partner if you never pray together? What's the purpose and the power of a prayer partner who gets paired up with you, or even a small group in a church who you get assigned to a minister, or you get assigned to a deacon, but they never check in on you? Relational consistency is what powers belonging. It's not that I just hear your name once, but there's regular check-in. There's a cadence to our phone calls. There's a cadence to our text messages, that when I don't just hear from you the Monday after I join the church or the synagogue or the faith group, but I hear from you on a regular basis, maybe in different forms, on social media, through email, through text message, every now and again, a phone call. And so for anyone who's a church leader or a school leader or an educational leader or a business leader, what we're trying to do is create environments where people know we care about them. And how do we communicate care? We communicate the care through our actions, through our words, through our communications. But it's not a one and done kind of thing. It's consistency, right? So I often, in my consulting work with businesses and agencies and groups that think about what's the schedule, what's the cadence, how often we're going to do this, right? And what groups do well is they jump off with like, oh my gosh, we're going to reach out to them and we're going to contact them on a Monday. Then we're going to hit them again on Wednesday and hit them again on Friday. I would say you're far better off talking to them Monday and then another Monday 2 weeks down the road. And then another, if you want to switch it up, a Wednesday 3 weeks down the road, so they don't get feel like it's automated. Make it feel more human, right? But you're speaking to them over now 6 to 9 weeks versus back to back in a single week. And then there are lulls, moments where you're not communicating with them, right? It's critically important. Belong in the workplace, positive accolades. When a supervisor said my name in the room where I was not present. I so appreciate you putting that out there. People feel a sense of belonging when people give them positive accolades, when people shout them out, celebrate them, even when they're not present. I mean, it's one thing to shout people out and celebrate them and reward them when they're present. That's important. You should do it. Give people their flowers while they can smell them. But just imagine the power behind someone learning that my supervisor or my team leader or my manager or my coworker celebrated me even when I was not there, stood up for me, spoke up for me, talked about the kind of positive change that I was making, even when I was not in the room. These kinds of things. And you, for all of us who are co-workers and managers and leaders and supervisors and business owners and pastors and ministers and mentors, neighbors, listen, all that I'm talking about is just helping us understand it's really easy to do. You can do this too. You can go on LinkedIn tonight and tag someone who did a good job on something, and it means the world. I remember going to LinkedIn, and I used to not check like my mentions and my tags, but now I do. And the other day I went and one of my coworkers had posted a picture of us and like tagged me in it. And one, it means a lot, because to tag someone, it means that everyone in their network who's looking at this picture now knows who I am. And it creates a virtual kind of memorial, a virtual moment that out of our in-person connection, it says to the world virtually what we typically would say one-on-one, right? People who I would not even be able to reach, I can reach, and they can get to know me through the person who tagged me, right? So first of all, it's sort of like back in the day. When I say back in the day, I mean like before we had social media, when you would introduce your friend to your friends, like, hey, guys, this is my friend Marcus. Marcus, meet my friends, right? You're doing that when you tag someone in a post on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, especially if you are celebrating something that they did well, a recent job, a recent win, a kind act. You're doing that in a way that really helps celebrate their contributions. And what I will close with is what I'm learning from my research time and time again. Although those are small actions, what I would call micro actions, they can create macro kind of results. Micro, M-I-C-R-O actions that really produce macro, M-A-C-R-O, big. Small actions producing big results, because what it means for the person is, there are people looking around, hunting for signals and cues that their lives matter, that they did something well, that they've made a difference. And sometimes at their lowest point, just imagine that your post, your tag, your video, your reel, your text message, your email, your polite compliment at a meeting would be all that they need to hear, to know, keep on going, keep doing what I'm doing, that it makes a difference. All right. So there it is. We are at time. Oh my gosh, time flies when you are having fun. But appreciate you all for using the chat, for tuning in for yet another episode of Do Good Work Podcast, and looking forward to many more to come. Listen, we've got some folks we're going to get lined up for the show. We certainly talked to Principal Kafele, who was keynote speaker for our summit yesterday, about being on the podcast. We're going to bring him, some of the workshop facilitators, in fact, all of them. I'd love to have them on the show. I think you got to hear from them. They're all doing dynamic work in family engagement, artificial intelligence, ways to get more young men interested in teaching and education. So we promise, we commit that we will get them to join us on the show. So stay tuned for those forthcoming. Can't believe it, but in a couple of weeks, if not the next week, we're going to be celebrating our 60th episode. And so we'll be sure to use our social media channels to let you know. But when we hit that show, we're going to celebrate. We're going to give some stuff away to mark our 60th show as we make our way toward our 100th show. It's so cool. Absolutely. Please, thank you. Like and subscribe. Go to YouTube, like and subscribe. Follow us on all things Facebook. We're on Twitter or X. I know there aren't many people out still on X, but we're on X. We're on LinkedIn. And until next time, until next week, remember, when you go out this week, hopefully maybe we'll check in with you next week about this. Don't be afraid to do something kind, do something good, do something that people will want to hear about. Be kind to someone, pay for someone's coffee, give them a card, send an email to a coworker who you've been, boxing with, and let them know, listen, it's over. We're good friends. I'm not going to worry about this anymore. Squash the battle, squash the beef, whatever it is. Just go out here and don't be afraid to do something. Don't be afraid to be kind. Listen, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. That if you are, I was talking to a colleague last week who was saying that they were thinking about applying for a job. Listen, we don't get 100% of the jobs we don't apply for. If you don't apply for it, if you don't put your name in the ring, if you don't put your hat in the ring, it's unlikely that you will be selected. So don't be afraid to apply. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to try out. Don't be afraid to ask a question. If your manager is looking for someone to take on a project, don't be afraid to try it this week. Don't be afraid to do something. But as we say, don't be afraid to do something and do something good. We call it do good work. Until next time, friends, be good and do good work. Peace. I'm out.
Thank you for tuning in to Do Good Work Podcast. We hope you found today's conversation informative, uplifting, and insightful. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your networks. Follow us on social media at Do Good Work on X, formerly Twitter, for real-time updates, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more. Until next time, friends, don't be afraid to do something, but do something good. Do good work.